Hey guys, so as you've seen from the title, I am adopted, so this is my story.
Where else can I go? Where else can I go? Chasing you, chasing you.
I really feel that before I continue with YouTube and my channel, I feel like I need to be honest with you guys and share my story and kind of let you guys get to know me on a more personal level. So here's my story. Let's see. In order to tell you my story, I have to kind of go back in time a little bit. So bear with me. It is kind of a long story, but I will try to condense it and make it not so long and drawn out. So before I was born, my parents met at a drug rehab. How romantic, I know. My mom was a model and she got into drugs. And she also had a really bad car accident where she broke her pelvis as a teenager, and so that also got her hooked on pain medication and stuff. So that was her start of her drug career. My father, I don't really know much about his drug use other than he was a drug user. And so yeah, they met at a drug rehab, and about 2 weeks later they decided to get married. Crazy, I know. And after they got married, they decided to move to Costa Rica, probably to run away from the cops and whatnot. They were also in a lot of trouble. So once they got to Costa Rica, they found out my mom was pregnant with me, and the doctors told her that it was very unlikely that I would be born alive, pretty much. She would probably give a stillbirth. And if I were born, I would probably have something wrong with me due to all the drugs she was taking. And on the other hand, my dad was very abusive to her. He would come home drunk, smelling like women's perfume, you know, just really not respecting my mom at all. 9 months later, they had me, and I mean, nothing was wrong. I was born a healthy baby, and it was a miracle. And my mom almost died from giving birth to me. She just lost so much blood during the process, and but luckily the doctor saved her, and so that was all good. And so fast forwarding a little bit, when I was about 1, you know, my dad was still abusive to my mom and stuff, and my parents' maid came to my mom and warned her and told her that my father came up to him and told him that they would pay him any amount of money to help with the murder of my mom. And so my mom freaked out. She got me and flew back to America, and we stayed with my grandparents in Texas, and we lived with them for about, we lived with them off and on, and so it was just a rough time for my mom. She was still continuing to take drugs. She was a single mother, having to raise me, and so again, fast forwarding a little bit, on the week of my 5th birthday, I remember this so clearly, and people are like amazed about how I can remember so much about this, but I guess when it's that traumatic, you just kind of remember things. But I remember watching Garfield on TV, and my mom talking to her probation officer on the phone she got into some trouble. I don't know what it was, but that, you know, she had to go in the next day to her probation officer just to have a meeting, you know, a checkup. And so she was talking to her on the phone, and I was watching Garfield. And then later that night, we were laying in bed and we were watching I Love Lucy, and that was our nightly ritual. We would watch I Love Lucy all the time, so that was a lovely memory I have. But the next morning, I wake up and I realize that I'm late for school. And I'm like, oh gosh, Mom, wake up, it's time to go to school and work. And she wouldn't wake up, so I got all ready and everything, and I made my breakfast and ate. And then I came back and I was like, Mom, come on, it's time to get up. She still wouldn't wake up. And I thought it was normal because from the amount of drugs she would always take, it would make her really sleepy, and so she would have like these sleeping spells, I guess you would say, and she would just sleep all the time. And so I thought it was normal. And then I hear the phone ring. So I go into the other room, and it was her probation officer calling. And she's like, can you get your mom for me? And I said, she's sleeping. She's like, well, can you go wake her up for me? I said, okay, I'll try. And so I go and try to wake her up. Well, the probation officer had me do that 3 more times after that. And I kept telling her, you know, she's not waking up. And next thing you know, these cops show up my door. And as a young little 5-year-old naive kid, I thought it was normal because that's kind of how my life was. She would always, like, we would always have ambulances come to the house and cops and stuff as she would overdose. My grandparents would call the cops to take her to the hospital and all these crazy things like that. And I mean, she would even have us like hiding in under the bed or in the closet or something from her crazy hallucinations she would have, and like it would scare me, and she'd say, like, somebody's out to get us, and just crazy things like that. And so then after all that happened, it was about, so then the cops show up, and luckily one of my friends' dad was a cop, and so he came to my house. And I remember the place where I was living, we had like a little chicken coop, and a newborn baby chick was born. And so I was playing with her and showing him my little baby chick. And while that was going on, I can remember hearing camera clicks in the background of them taking pictures. And next thing you know, my grandparents show up and my aunt and uncle, and they told me that she died, and I was devastated. Although, you know, all this stuff happened and stuff, my mom was my best friend. Like, we were so close together. I mean, so close to each other. And, I mean, that's all I knew. All I knew was her. And so it was really hard for me. And, after the funeral, my grandparents sent me to live with my dad. So I moved in with my dad, and we moved back to Costa Rica, and I lived with him about 2 years. He never really took care of me. He had nannies, he paid nannies to take care of me, and I lived with I lived with my nanny and her family on the weekdays, and then I would go and visit my dad on the weekends. But even on the weekends, like, he would send me off to get my hair and nails done, like at a salon all day while he was working or who knows what. And so that was pretty much it. He was very abusive, and he wasn't, I mean, I have good memories. I have some good memories of him, but mainly it was just, I wouldn't say a blur. It was just, I don't have very many memories with him per se, because it would mainly be with my nannies or something. So when I was 7, so I'm 7 now. So when I was 7, I moved, when I was 7, I flew back to America to visit my family for the Christmas break. And I was supposed to go back. But after the break, we couldn't contact my dad. Like, he was nowhere to be found. So I lived with my aunt and uncle after I came back from Costa Rica. And after the 2 years, my uncle and aunt fought to adopt me. And when I was 9, they were able to. My aunt and uncle weren't able to have any kids. And my uncle was the brother of my mother. They weren't able to have kids, and my uncle had a criminal background, so he wasn't able to adopt any kids from an agency. Adoption was through the family rather than an agency, because if it was an agency, they wouldn't be able to adopt. So that was a blessing in disguise, because they've always dreamt of having kids, but they weren't physically able to. And so to have me as their kid, they were just super, super thankful and thanking the man upstairs. And so it's just crazy to think about, you know, I mean, there's still so much, but so much stuff that I left out, but it's crazy to think about how God put me through all of that to see, like, that all had to happen in order for this blessing to happen. I don't know if y'all understood that, but that is just astounding to me. And so, I mean, I'm still going through some struggles, you know. I mean, everyone does, you know, that's life. But I believe God gave me this story to share with people, to tell you guys that you're not alone in any circumstance whatsoever. You know, and people judge you. You know, people judge me like, oh, you haven't gone through anything, you don't know what it's like. But I have, you know, and I have been through stuff that most people will never ever go through. And I mean, it's mind-boggling. I'm in the process of making a documentary about about what people go through, and how people just really judge people from the surface and don't really know them. And so the documentary is called What Lies Beneath, and it will be coming, it will probably be finished by the end of this year. So be on the lookout for that, and I will let you guys know when it's up. So that's my story. Don't forget to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and comment down below. Thanks.
Where else can I go? Chasing